There we go. Okay. Now we are recording. Yeah, I just wanted to get it recorded. Yep. That's all. All right. And all right, we got a couple people coming in, so we'll just give it another minute. We've got a few people that are on here and subscribed to it getting on, so about 13.
Okay.
All right. Might as well just go ahead and get started and get this get things going. Everybody, thanks for coming and listening to our second blab. So again, we're working out some kinks and trying to figure out how this all works. I'm actually on the road, so I'm doing mine from the car. I am parked. Adam's at home doing it. But we figured a Sunday would be good. We actually tried to do this 2 days ago, but we had some technical difficulties trying to get it hooked up. So our first blab is on our website, and it's saved here on BlabTube. It's on Facebook. It's on Twitter. So you're able to watch that. It was just a general overview of what we plan on discussing and kind of going over. And then, we discussed who we are and what we're going to be doing and different blabs and all that. So this is the first blab where we're really going to get into detail on creating a buyer's list. And we're going to show you guys, walk you through how to create a buyer's list. So that's what this blab's about. If we could, we're going to get through the first 45 minutes of it, or 30 minutes, however long it takes us, and then we'll do Q&A after that.
Sounds good.
Okay, so Adam, why don't you go?
Sure. So last week we kind of went over just the basics of what a wholesale is. So figure the next logical step would be to talk about how to create your buyer's list, because if you're going to be going out getting deals, you're going to want to have an established pre-qualified buyer's list before you get that first deal. I think a mistake that some of the newer wholesalers make, and I think it's probably just because they're, very ambitious and really wanting to get in the game, is they go after the deals and they try to find a deal first, but then they're left scurrying trying to find a buyer for that deal. What we recommend is taking some time and establishing a pre-qualified buyer's list first before you go find deals, so that once you do get that deal, you're going to increase your odds of making that deal happen and having that transaction go through if you actually have some buyers to run it by. Even think of it from the time perspective. If you don't have an established buyer's list and you get a deal, right? So typically, let's just say for the sake of argument, you're going to get under contract, and usually you have a 30-day, you give yourself 30 days for closing. So if you do that and you don't have a buyer's list and you're scurrying to find a buyer, what if it takes you 2 weeks to find a buyer or 3 weeks to find a buyer, right? Now you're putting the deal in jeopardy because you're giving them 2 weeks or a week to close. And if they can't do that, well, then now you're renegotiating the contract with the seller. That brings, how are you going to do that? That brings a sort of a question in the seller's head of, are you trustworthy? Or are you just making excuses? And it just, you're putting the deal in jeopardy basically by doing that, as opposed to having an established buyer's list, finding a deal, and then being able to send that deal out to hundreds and hopefully a few thousand people that you already have established in a buyer's list, and really increasing your chances of making the deal go through. So, there's no one secret way of building a buyer's list. There's different strategies that you can do, but they're nothing. There's no secret to it. It's really getting in the game and networking and talking to people. So one easy way is every state, pretty much every state has a what's called a real estate investors association. Here in Connecticut, it's the CTRIA, right? The Connecticut Real Estate Investors Association. And all it is hundreds or thousands of people, investors just like you. There's agents, there's contractors, there's constantly new investors getting in the game. So it's good to find your local RIA, become a member, and actually go to those meetings. And you're going to find right there, you're going to add a ton of people to your list simply by going to those, usually monthly or bi-monthly meetings, depending on where you are. So a lot of good quality people. And like I said, it's good to continue to go because there's constantly new people getting in the game. And, if you're the one that gives them their first deal, guess who they're going to go back to for their second, third, or fourth deal, right? So that's one very easy way of adding people to your buyers list. Another thing is just very simple. I mean, if you have MLS access, or if you at least have an agent that has MLS access, it's pretty easy to pinpoint flips that come on the market. There are some online resources that you could use. Let's say you're not sure, it looks like it's a rehab from the pictures. Usually they'll have the owner on it, and if it's an LLC, I mean, it kind of, those kind of details can help you kind of understand if it's a flip or not. But there are some easy resources or online resources that you can use to see when that property was last sold. So if it was last sold, 3 months ago, and now it's back in the market and the pictures look great, odds are it's a rehab. So pick up the phone and call the agent and ask, is this a flip? Who are you working with? So it's just one thing to keep an eye out for. Very easy to do.
Yeah, and also, not to interrupt you, but on that, when you're looking through, I know some people may be saying, well, to look through all the MLS listings and try to figure it out, look for keywords, newly remodeled, or, new to the market, or, certain phrases that make it sound like it's new, on the market, or newly rehabbed, to kind of narrow it down so that you can kind of find out when you look through them, if it's been rehabbed, chances are that's an investor. So, you look for those keywords in the descriptions of the properties. That's going to help kind of narrow it down a little bit. It's not going to get you right to them, but it's going to kind of narrow it down out of all the listings, depending on what part of the country you're in. There's going to be more listings than in other places. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
I mean, it's a good way to sort of leverage people in a sense by doing that too. What I mean by that is, if you contact an agent and they are working with an investor, from our experience, agents who are working with one investor typically know a number of other investors. So, by contacting that one agent, you may not be adding one buyer, you may be adding several buyers simply through that one agent. I mean, there's a couple that Brian and I have a list of, over 1,000 people in their buyers list. So, if you find an agent like that, you've just added 1,000 people to your buyers list just by that one relationship. So, something to keep in mind, that you can leverage your relationships that way and sort of add more buyers than you really think by having that one contact. So, and this is another way, actually, if you go to auctions, another great way of leveraging people, right? If you go to auctions, yes, you're going to find the actual buyers there, right? Cash buyers, obviously, at an auction. Typically, it's at the property. You can usually go on your judicial website and find out what towns are having auctions, where they are, what the addresses are, etc. So you can very easily go there on a Saturday morning, not only meet the actual buyers, but it's usually an attorney that is holding or hosting the auction. So meet the attorney. Again, you're going to leverage that one relationship and get more buyers through that person, because if that attorney is hosting auctions, guess who he's meeting on a constant basis? He's meeting cash buyers. So we've done that too. Meet the attorney, and they'll usually ask you to add you to their buyers list, because obviously they want the properties to be sold. And if they're doing other real estate deals, well, they're going to want to. If you do have deals and they are working with buyers, obviously they're going to want to work with you. So it's a great way to find actual buyers, and also, like I said, talking to the attorneys hosting those auctions and sort of leveraging that relationship again. A little more, I guess.
Well, hold on. I just want to touch on the auctions too.
Yeah.
When you may be thinking, well, if I go to the auction, I don't want to, make it look like I'm going to be a buyer when I'm not. And sometimes when you just go there, you kind of have to make it seem like you're going to be a legitimate buyer. Okay. I'm not telling you to lie to them. I mean, if you're asked directly, you just say, I'm to an auction before. I kind of wanted to get, an idea of how they work and how the process goes and things like that. So I'm not telling you to show up and tell them, oh yeah, I'm a buyer and you're not, but you want to go there to meet all of these people. You don't have to be or go with the mindset of, oh, I need to be a buyer. That's not the case. Okay, a lot of people will show up at these. It depends on the asset. You could have 3 people, or you could have 13 people. It all differs between depending on the property. So when you go there, if you are asked, if you are a buyer or what you do, be honest with them. Tell them, you know what, I've never been to an auction before, and I just wanted to kind of get an idea of what this whole process is about. Then you're creating that conversation, and that interaction with a cash buyer, like Adam was saying, and then one leads to another. Every cash buyer knows another buyer or knows another investor. So as they go, you kind of keep building on that, and it'll expand.
Right.
So.
The next sort of, I guess, strategy is a little more tedious, but it's just sort of, keeping things in the forefront of your mind if you really are actively looking to build a buyer's list. Again, it's pretty easy with driving by a house that is actively being rehabbed. You have a dumpster in the front. Sometimes they'll have signs advertising the company that's doing it. Stop by, go in there, talk to them, introduce yourself, let them know what you're doing, see what they're buying, where they're buying, what they're looking for. Again, it's the whole thing. You're adding that one investor, but investors know other investors. So even if it's a property, once you come across a deal and you send it to them, even if it's a property that they themselves don't want, or it's in an area that they're not interested in, they may have other contacts that they have who do buy in that area, or who would like that type of a property, or maybe who don't rehab but are looking for a buy and hold, and the numbers work from that angle. So it's just kind of keeping those things in mind and just taking the time to pull over and go in there for 5 minutes and introduce yourself, right? Drop off a business card or whatever, and see who these people are. Along the same lines, when you're driving around, you'll notice the We Buy Houses signs, right? The bandit signs that are all over the place. Obviously, people are putting those up to try to find sellers, right? They're marketing, trying to get people to call them from people selling their house, but it's a good way to actually add buyers to your buyers list, because they're other wholesalers, or they're probably investors themselves, rehabbers. So call those signs and just let them know that you're another local investor. Tell them what you're doing, see who they are. Again, go through the whole spiel and see what they're buying, how much they're buying, etc. So bandit signs. Every single time I see a new bandit sign, I write down a number and I absolutely call it, because, like I said, it's a great way of adding buyers to your list. Other key points here. Let's see. So building inspectors, you can always contact the building inspector of different towns that you're interested in, because they're obviously inspecting buildings, and they're going to be inspecting buildings of rehabbers. So they're going to have their own list, or at least know a handful of investors that they've inspected properties on. Or if it's somebody that's doing some volume, then they'll probably know them pretty well, because they're inspecting multiple properties, or at least properties on a regular basis. So another good contact to keep in mind if you're interested in a certain area. Go online. I mean, all of the town halls information is all online now, so it's very easy to look up any single town, find out who the building inspector is, call the number, and again, just be honest and let them know what you're doing, and see if they have any contacts for you, any names or numbers that they could refer to you, that you can then call, follow up on, and again, add people to your list. So along the same line with building inspectors is builders. A lot of builders, yes, they do new construction, but there are plenty of builders that we know who also do rehab sort of on the side, especially if it's slow. If they have a crew that they need to keep working and they don't have any new construction projects going on, A lot of them will keep them busy by taking on these side rehab projects, which are, much dearer and from their perspective, because they're not doing a completely new property and going through all of the planning and zoning and all that stuff. So just something to keep in mind too. You're driving by, you see a builder, new construction, same thing. Jot down the number, give them a call, see if they do rehabs on the side. Let them know who you are, what you're doing, and it's another way to potentially add people to your list. Let's see here. So another way of sort of leveraging relationships, now going back to what I said first in terms of the REIAs, a lot of times at those real estate investors associations, you'll have hard money lenders promoting themselves there. And even if there aren't, it's very easy to just Google, some hard money lenders in your area. If you don't know what that is, there are certain lenders or companies that are established they're known as hard money, which are strictly for the purpose of rehabbing, right? They lend for investment. It's not your traditional bank financing. It's actual companies that are created to fund investors. So if you Google that in your area, another great way of leveraging a relationship, because obviously if they're a hard money lender, they're lending to a lot of investors in your area. Well, they're going to have a huge list of people that are actually rehabbing. So what's great about that is you're getting a pre-qualified list, right? If they're working with people, obviously those people are actually buying properties and actually rehabbing. So you have a great pre-qualified list of people that you could be adding that way. And they're going to want to do business with you if you do produce deals, because obviously they're going to benefit simply by, they're the ones funding the deal, right, for the rehabber. So it's sort of a mutually beneficial situation. So they're a great resource. If you can Google it, or like I said, go to the REIAs and meet them, let them know that you're a wholesaler, and that's another great resource to have. I don't know, Brian, if you wanted to touch on the online stuff. That's one of the next bullet points I have here.
Yep. All right. Adam was kind of going the more traditional way of, with the lenders and, going to the REIAs and all of that. I'm going to talk to you guys about using social media. And social media can be great and it can be horrible. There's really no in between for it. You'll get a lot of people who say they're a cash buyer on the social media sites, but they're not. And that's going to be a whole nother blab. Those are, you find a lot of wholesalers, or, they call themselves intermediaries, seller reps. There's a whole list of things, and that's a whole blab in itself that we're going to talk about. Adam and I have had the, I don't know if you want to put it luxury or
yeah, of
dealing with these, which I'm sure a lot of you have. Some of the newbies on here, maybe not, but that's another thing. But social media is a great way, I feel, to create a buyer's list. Now, we're not traditional with the buyer's list like most gurus out there who, they tell you to go look at certain things and do that. That's, social media to me is, first you start off with the easiest, most available thing, which is Craigslist. Okay. Everybody knows Craigslist, and everybody knows how to use Craigslist. A lot of people will tell you post your deals on there. You can find everything on Craigslist. You can run a whole entire business off of Craigslist. I'm not totally sold on that, but you can create a pretty good buyer's list or get cash buyers from there. That will give you, and what you do is you go on to Craigslist and you go into the real estate sections, the apartment, anything to do with real estate. I'm not going to tell you to go to one category, because I feel that there's cash buyers in all different categories. So depending on what city you're in, it'll work anywhere. Okay. Craigslist, if you're familiar with it, it works anywhere. And you can go for rent, the real estate sections, anything, like I said, anything to do with real estate, you can go in there and you can throw an ad out. Looking for cash buyers of real estate. That is one way of doing that. The other way is to see who's selling property, because sometimes if it's not a wholesaler, it's a cash buyer who bought the house, like Adam said, for the MLS, and now they're trying to sell it without an agent. See, Craigslist is outside of the MLS, selling it without an agent. There are some agents on there in certain markets. Agents use Craigslist a lot. Other markets, they don't use it as much. So Craigslist, we feel is a good stepping stone to start out for the social media side of it for a buyer's list. You can very easily do it. Anybody can. So you go on to those real estate sites, you look for cash buyers wanted, because that is a lead for you. That might be another wholesaler. They may already have a list of cash buyers. So right there, if they already have a list, but they're looking for more and you have none, you can partner up with them on deals. Because if you have a wholesale deal, but you don't have anyone to buy it, it's co-wholesaling, because they may have a cash buyer. So you guys can go in on the deal, split the profits, or whatever you decide to do, however you want to handle it. It's their buyer's list. So that's where, you're not so much creating your own, but you're able to get rid of your deal through someone else's cash buyer list that they already have. So that would be a co-wholesale, but you're also going to have interactions with that cash buyer. Not that you are stepping on anybody's toes, but you're going to, that's one more person to meet. And who knows where it goes from there. They're in your database. You have this person, you guys work it out where maybe you have a deal that you work together on all the time. If you bring someone in, you use his cash buyer, you split the profits, or however you decide to do. That's something that whatever your idea is, you guys can work that out. So one is Craigslist. Twitter. Now, Twitter, to create a buyer's list is a little more difficult. It'll be done. It is time consuming. Okay. I do it while I'm watching TV or sitting in a doctor's office waiting for one of my kids' appointments or whatever. I will scroll through Twitter and look for key things. People that are selling portfolios or houses or flips of some sort. Now, they're not a lot. Now, Twitter's not huge for this, but it can be utilized for cash buyers. The kind of cash buyers you typically will get on Twitter are the bigger portfolio buyers, okay, where they're looking for specifics, or wholesalers, again, that are a little more advanced in the social media, that are using Twitter to get out. Facebook, Twitter, and Craigslist. That's kind of like where they all go to that. So if you go ahead and you go on Twitter, you'll look for kind of the same things as you do on list, but you're also looking for peers, people that are doing the same thing you're doing. If you're doing wholesaling or whatever your niche is, look for those people. Go through your own followers and people that you're following and look through their profiles again to see what they say they do, and then shoot them a message. And they might not get the first one. So you have to kind of be a little consistent with it. And you're able to build both wholesalers in other markets or your market that may already have cash buyers that you can co-wholesale with. Okay. Because, co-wholesaling a deal is better than zero. Okay. So if you have a deal under contract and you don't have a cash buyers list, well, guess what? It's better to get split $5,000 or $10,000 than it is to lose the deal, let somebody else pick it up and make all the profit. So you're looking for like-minded people, same wholesalers or whatever, but you will find cash buyers on there, entities that are buying. You don't know how big they are, and things like that. But we won't get into too much detail, but that's what you're looking for on Twitter. Facebook is a little different. Facebook, there are a ton of groups. Now, Adam and I, we've joined these groups. There's a lot of postings in there. And I was just telling him the other day, I'm seeing more and more actual deals come through. Now, again, you're looking for your cash buyers in those areas. What you're doing is when you see these deals come out, people are commenting. Send me information on this. I'm interested. Now, again, you have to understand that there will be wholesalers that say I'm a cash buyer, but they're not technically, but they have a cash buyer's list or a buyer looking for a certain group of properties or a property, whether it be commercial or residential. This works, by the way, for either residential or commercial. It's a buyer's list. You shouldn't be picky about what you're trying to do, because those buyers may be looking at commercial right now, but they may want residential next month. You don't know, or they know somebody that does. So what you're doing is you're going in and looking at all of these deals. People are putting out wholesales, for land, single family, mobile properties, you name it. Look at the comments below. Read what people are doing. They're putting out their emails. People are giving their emails. They're not doing a PM. They're putting it right in there, most of them. So what you do is you capture that. You contact those people, say, are you a cash buyer or do you represent a buyer? And that's a key for any of these, Craigslist, Twitter, or Facebook. Are you the cash buyer or are you the rep for the buyer? That's a key phrase that is extremely important for anything that you do, because right off the bat, don't be afraid to ask that question, because it is super important. You have to know who you're dealing with so that you can adjust how you approach. Because if they are the cash buyer, well, then you're going to ask them, what is their criteria? What are they looking for? What areas, what market? So that you know what they're looking for. And don't ever, 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 ever say, oh, that's not my market, I'm not going to handle that. Don't ever do that. You don't have to physically be in any market. We've done this in all over the country. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be. So when you're creating that buyer's list, you're creating a buyer's list for properties, for anything, a buyer of real estate. Most important thing, you never know when a deal might come to you through your networking that is in this person's market. If the criteria, you have a deal that you didn't even really work for. We've had a lot of those. So you want to ask that question. Are you the cash buyer? Are you the rep? And that's off of the Facebook comments underneath properties that are being sold. It's huge. Most people don't do that. Okay. And if they do, there's no follow through. They may email once and that's it. They don't put it on a list. Make a list, whether you have to write it down on a pad. I have a pad right here. See this pad? Good old yellow pad, right? So, and I have iPhones and all this kinds of stuff. I still have a pad most of the time with a pen, so I can quickly jot things down. But if I want to put it on a list, I have to, go to an Excel spreadsheet and put it on there. But have a pad. Write these things down while you're scrolling through, or highlight it, copy and paste it to a notes in your phone. However you need to do it, you organize yourselves, figure it out. But that's important. You will capture more emails and you'll be able to get more cash buyers and have more opportunities by reading the comments in the listings. And there are a ton of groups you can. Okay. So it is a little time consuming, but spend the time. It's well worth it. Get the updates, let them come through. Take an hour a day, I'd say. Adam, what do you think? An hour, in the morning?
Yeah.
That's what I do. I take an hour in the morning and I go through Craigslist, Facebook, and Twitter. You may need more, you may have less, but when you first start out, joining all the groups is a little daunting. Okay. It does take a little bit of time, but you can get a very solid list off of that. Facebook is really huge for those kinds of things. I feel anyway, through the groups, and you're also getting your business name out there, and you're also getting your name out there. However, you're representing yourself online, whether it's your name and company or vice versa or both. It's just getting out there. And then people will ask you, what market are you in? What properties do you have and where? And that's how you start your networking. Okay. And it just builds off of that. The other site that is good is LinkedIn. Okay. LinkedIn is is good. Again, you have to be careful. Not everybody is truthful. Not every post is real. Not every person is real that's out there. That's the tough part about all these. But there's keywords you ask, and that phrase is: are you a cash buyer or are you a rep for the buyer, or the seller? Either or, buyer or seller. But we're doing cash buyers list now. So, are you a rep or are you an actual cash buyer? That's the key phrase again for LinkedIn. Don't waste your time. Immediately ask that question and you'll know who you're dealing with. And then once they tell you, you ask the criteria. Okay, you're a cash buyer. What are you looking for? What markets? After you get past that point and they respond to you, get on the phone. Don't go by just an email back and forth. Physically speak to the person, because that'll tell you right away whether they're real or not. Okay, a real voice, someone who actually understands real estate. Now, if you're brand new in real estate, don't be nervous about getting on the phone. Okay, you're gonna have to use a little instinct. Okay, we could tell you to her blue in the face how to handle it and a few key phrases that will tip you off or red flag the person that they're not legit or they're not who they say they are. But that is something you have to learn. So you're going to have to get on the phone and make that mistake. Okay. That's the tough part. The tough part is figuring out, do they really have the money or do they really represent someone with money? Okay. And once you get that, you get on the phone. If you feel comfortable with them, ask the certain questions. What market are you looking in, or markets? What is your buying criteria? Now, what I mean by buying criteria, it means single family, multifamily, duplexes. Are you looking for apartment buildings? Are you looking, what is it that your buyer's looking for? Is it hotels? Is it strip malls? Is it regular malls? Is it just vacant land, mobile home parks? What are you looking for? Name all of those things. I may have said it fast, but you'll be able to watch this again. So you're asking for their criteria of what they're looking for. Is it 3-bed, 2-bath? Someone might say it's a 3-2-2. Well, that's a 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage. Okay. In a lot of the hedge funds, I'm probably going a little too far, but hedge funds, or the buyers for the hedge funds, because you'll never talk to the actual hedge fund. You'll talk to their buyer rep. They're looking for a certain bed, bath, and garage and year that was built. Okay. So you want to ask all those questions, even from your cash buyer, even the guy who only sells or only flips 3 houses a year. By asking those questions, you're going to sound more intelligent, more like you've done this before. So if you're brand new, that's right there. That is getting you on the phone. You're sending the email. Are you a cash buyer or are you a buyer rep? You are then, once they answer that question, you're saying, can we set up a time to talk? Because you want to find out, are they real? Do they know what they're talking about? Or are they as new as you are? Nothing wrong with that, but you just need to get on the phone. Take charge of the transaction of creating this list. And then once you get to that point, you have the conversation, you feel comfortable, you start to move forward. What is your criteria? What is it they're looking for? And that's when you ask those questions. How many beds? How many baths? What is your bandwidth? Bandwidth meaning what is their maximum amount? What's the maximum amount of money they can spend? Monthly, yearly? Okay, so you ask that. What's your bandwidth, or what's your maximum amount of money that they have to spend, or you have to spend? Is there a time frame on spending that? You ask those questions right there. End the conversation after you get your answers. If they have to get back to you, then they're a little newer at this. They haven't done much. If they don't have those answers right away, that means, okay, they haven't either been asked those questions, which is rare because those are just basic questions, or, they don't know because it's a new client, whatever. You're going to put yourself in a position of authority. Okay. You're going to be controlling that conversation and that transaction. That's where you want to be, in the driver's seat. New or not, you're going to sound like you've done this before if you ask those questions. That's what needs to be asked with Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Okay. And Craigslist. So on LinkedIn, you're doing the same exact thing you did with Facebook. Going into the posts in the groups that they have on LinkedIn, and you are looking for key keywords, or properties that are being sold, rehab deal, wholesale deal, I'm a cash buyer looking for properties, whatever it might be. Or if it's a group that says we buy 70 homes a year, or whatever it might be, use that, contact that, obviously costed it, but then look below it. Below it's gold, because those are people throwing their emails out, throwing their phone numbers out. Call me, I have a buyer. Okay, well, if they have a buyer, and this goes for Facebook, in LinkedIn, Craigslist, and Twitter, you don't really see anything like that. But when they say, I have a buyer, can I have more information? The bells go off. Get that person's email. Send that person a message saying, you have a buyer. Now, you already know what they're trying to sell because you read the post. So then almost what the criteria is for that buyer's rep. So you get that rep, because that rep probably has a very large buyer's list. Or maybe they just started out and they only have a smaller buyer's list. But if you don't have anybody on your list, one person's better than zero. So you can create a massive buyer's list without spending thousands of dollars a month to push one little button that they say is going to give you all the vacant homes in the world. None of that happens. You got to put a little time in. So in the morning, I find the morning the best time. In the morning, you take an hour or 2 hours or even 3 hours in the beginning to do this. Then you spend a couple hours making phone calls, sending emails, doing what you got to do. You need to be able to market. That's going to give you a buyer's list from social media, and it's very, very strong. Again, you have to be careful with who you deal with, but you have to be able to figure that out. You're going to make mistakes. Adam and I made them, but it took us a long time to kind of figure out.
I think you made more than me.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. That's right. Yep. Adam, by the way, if you haven't figured out, Adam's perfect. He's got a collared shirt on today. See, I'm just in a regular shirt, and I'm in my car because, well, I got thrown out of my house because I make mistakes. So, but anyway, so social media to us is a very powerful thing. We probably don't use it like everyone tells you to use it. We use it a little bit differently. But once we figured out, which other people may already know, but once we figured out how powerful the comments were, not social media in itself and not the post itself, the comments. People are making comments. They're basically telling you, without getting on the phone, without sending them an email, without any interaction, face-to-face, nothing, what they're looking for. And all you have to do, which we all learned at a very, very, very young age, is how to write or how to copy and paste. And that is what you can create a very quick buyer's list using social media, Craigslist, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So that's what I've got there for social media. I don't know, Adam, if you've got anything that you want to kind of add to it.
No, I think you touched on everything. I mean, really, I think the big take home from what you just said in terms of social media is, is really getting on the phone with these people. Don't just, like you said, don't just take an email or what somebody sends you in a post or whatever in a message, and just take it at face value and put it in a list. Because again, you got to vet them. I mean, it's very important. You get on the phone. It's the best way to vet any of these people, because you can obviously tell a lot about somebody, and a lot about what they're saying just based on talking to them, right? The way they speak. Are they giving you vague answers? Are they really just, if you ask them a question, are they really just answering your question specifically as if they really do this and they know what they're doing? There's a lot of information you can get from talking to people on the phone. And that's why, it does take a little more time, but it's worth it, because you want to be getting good quality buyers in your list, as opposed to just having a huge list of nothing, right? I mean, if you get a huge list of people who say they're buyers, but they're not, well, what good is that to you? Right? You send it out to 1,000 people that aren't really buying. Well, you don't really have a list, so very important to vet them. And I think the best way to vet them is to get them on the phone.
Yeah, exactly. And, I also wanted to put in there that, like you said, taking the time to get on the phone, it's time consuming. Okay. Don't get me wrong. You have to put the time in. This isn't a get rich quick scheme where, like I said, you get a program, you push a button, and all of a sudden, poof, you did a wholesale deal, or you did a probate deal, or whatever it might be. That's not the case. What you're doing is you're building a reputation also, because the people you get on the phone with and you do what you say you're going to do in this business, if you haven't figured it out yet, there's a ton of people that aren't who they say they are, don't do what they say they're going to do, and don't have what they say they have. So you have to be able to weed through that. But once people know you do what you say you're going to do, you are who you say you are, and you have what you say you have, it's going to go a mile. Because when you send out an email saying, I have a property, they're going to open that email and they're going to look at that email. If you don't do what you say you're going to do, and say what, and have what you say you have, and you are who you are, they're going to open it the first couple times. And the next thing you know, it's going to go down the tubes, because no one's going to want to look at your stuff. And nobody tells you that. Okay. Everyone's like blasting the emails, just keep sending the emails, drive it down their throat. No, you end up in spam or you end up deleted. You have to build a reputation, because it's a small world out there. You will find this out and figure this out you do not stick around very long if you start to burn people, or not do what you say you're going to do, or have what you say you have. So getting on the phone with them, you're building a reputation. And if this person is a legitimate wholesaler or cash buyer, whatever they might be, or buyer, they don't necessarily have to be a cash buyer. They can be a buyer that uses hard money or whatever, or a private lender. But you need to build that reputation, because once they get comfortable with you and you have a transaction and it goes, as smooth as it can, there will be some bumps. They're going to keep coming back. And you keep doing that over and over in different markets, you are going to have to work as hard. Starting out, you have to really, really work at this. It eventually gets a little bit easier and easier. One, because you're more confident. Two, people trust you. And it's huge in this business to trust somebody, and know that you're gonna do what they ask you to do, or what you say you're gonna do. Once you start building all of those things up, your life gets a heck of a lot easier. So it's very important, like Adam said, getting on that phone is huge. You just got to get to that point first.
Agreed. It's past 45 minutes, so I think maybe do Q&A before we get too long.
Yep. I don't know. I haven't looked down here. Oh, you were answering some questions while I was talking. Okay, we're going to open it up now. If anybody wants to come on and ask us some questions live, or type us a question down below and ask whatever it is. I mean, this is a blab on, building a cash buyer, to keep it around there. But if you do have a question that we can answer, that would be, we're open to doing that. So we'll open it up now. Anybody that has any questions, please, by all means, go ahead and ask.
So while we wait to see if there's any questions, just a quick point based on what you said. Um, Building your reputation or keeping that in mind. For some people that joined later, before we even started talking about how to get a buyer's list, we mentioned the importance of actually having a buyer's list before finding a deal, as opposed to the other way around, getting a deal then trying to find a buyer's list. So that's it's one way of building a good reputation if you have a buyer's list already, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to get a great deal and then have a true buyer, or finally find a true buyer, and they say, great, when do we have to close by, and you're like, oh well, next week, because you've been scurrying around trying to find that buyer, right? And it took you so long to do it. They're not going to drop everything they're doing to look at your potential deal, right? They're probably just going to say, there's no way we can close next week. And they won't even look at it. And then not only will they not look at it, but they're not going to be as likely to open up your next email or pick up your next phone call, because it's like, oh, it's that guy that, doesn't have their stuff together and is trying to sell deals in a week, right? So you kind of do away with all that if you already have a buyer's list. Because then you're obviously getting the property under contract and immediately getting it out to, to a lot of your pre-qualified buyers, giving them plenty of time to look at, do their own due diligence, work their numbers, schedule walkthroughs, all that stuff. And again, it sort of speaks to your credibility and helps you build a better reputation in the business. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, exactly. And again, you're going to hear from different people how it doesn't matter whether you have a buyer's list or not. If a property comes up, get it under contract and then go find the buyer. Well, that works, but not in every market. I will tell you that will not work here in Connecticut. I mean, I shouldn't say it won't work. It's a lot harder to do it that way.
Definitely.
If you know what your buyer wants, it's a lot easier to go out and market for that property. We find it more cost effective to market for a property that we already know we have a buyer for. So that's just how we do it. And I really think that that's the best way. But you'll hear a lot of people tell you a little different. But that's all right. Any questions at all from anybody? Any questions? Don't be shy. No question is dumb, or you don't be shy. Be the first one. We're going to be on here for just a couple more minutes.
Got a few people that joined during it here.
We need the music. I want to be able to play that music. Anybody, I bet if I offered $1,000 to the first person to ask the question, there'd be a ton of them coming in and then fighting over who was the first one to process through.
I think we just.
Should I offer $1,000 from you? Adam will give you one.
I think we just explain everything so well that.
Oh, is that what it is?
All right, I don't see any coming through.
Well, should I tell everybody that I'm going to go and to my 10,000 square foot house on the beach right now? Isn't that what they do? I'm sorry. Should I show pictures of my Lamborghini and then pose with my Rolex? You can have this life too. Pay us $10,000 a week, and you can be just like me. Yeah, maybe that's what gets questions asked.
Imagine if we had this stuff when we were getting involved in the business. I mean, I had so many questions when I first started. To have this sort of free information, I think, is priceless.
Well, I actually have to admit that I don't even know if the internet was out when I started. That's pretty sad, but
it's true though.
Yeah, no, it's yeah. So it would have been a lot different. No, I think all I had was Carlton Sheets at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Oh man,
That's what they had. You remember them?
yeah.
So we just had a couple of people join here. We're actually at the Q&A time now, asking any questions about creating a buyer's list. We're getting ready to end this blab, but we got it open for a couple more minutes. If there's any questions at all, I was going to offer $1,000 for the first question out of Adam's checking account, but I think he'd frown upon me putting up I got a pad I can write the number down and just hold up your account number. Does that work?
That'll get people to join.
I think so. Free money?
Mm-hmm.
No? If you were on the blab for the whole time, you'll be rich in a week. Is that going to work?
All right. Well,
all right.
Coming through.
There's nobody has any questions. For everybody that's on that may have joined after, this is going to be up on our YouTube page and our website too, but YouTube, and we will send this out via Twitter and Facebook. So if you aren't following us already, please follow us. On Blab and Twitter. We do have a Facebook page, Ultimate Real Estate Investing. And we also have, you can go to our website, ultimaterealestateinvesting.com. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, like us on Blab, and we can get this all, so that you can be on. We're going to do another Blab in probably 2 weeks, do you think, Adam?
Yeah, around there.
Okay. And we'll be back on to do a actually I'm not sure what we're going to do, Adam.
I mean, we'll talk. It's probably going to be, now that we went over sort of what wholesaling is, how to get a buyer's list, we're going to start talking about how to actually find deals that you can feed to your buyers. So
yeah, I think that's the good way to go. So the next blab is going to be about that, finding the deal. I think that's the next.
It'll probably be broken up into, I'm guessing, a few blabs, but we'll figure it out because it's a lot to talk about.
It's a lot. So that's what the next blab is going to be about. So like us on Facebook, Twitter, or follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook and Blab, so that you get our next Blab post and when we're going to be on. All right. I guess that's it, Adam.
Sounds good. Thanks everyone for joining us and listening.
Yes, thank you everybody, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right.
Bye-bye.